Hello. So this video today, first of all, I want to say that if you're thinking that this video is directed toward you because you have known me and um, you think I'm trying to send a message, it's not. And I would say that if you are thinking that I'm talking about anybody individual right now, I mean, I'm sorry, this is not how I would go about it. It's kind of like people who have a narcissism test where they're like, okay, if you're worried that you're being narcissistic, then you probably aren't narcissistic. So if you're worried that something that you're doing is, you know, being negative influence in my life, don't worry about it because at this point, well, for sure right now, and I mean, sometimes I do have to still. But for right now, I don't have anybody that really should be gone. But, you know, some people try me. Let's put it that way. Um, so there's nobody that I would want out of my life. But um, it does happen that even though you have a avoidant personality disorder, that sometimes you might need to have people no longer be a part of your life. And that's incredibly difficult to do. I mean, I have definitely done it. Um, the easiest way is if they're a narcissist, because if you stop paying them attention, then they initially might attack you, but they are not interested in you if you're not paying them attention. So if it's a narcissist you want out of your life, okay, easy peasy. And I'm saying that like a joke, but seriously, I mean, I've made videos about how to actually extract yourself before, and it is very, very hard. It's very hard for somebody with avoidant personality disorder to see, I can't even say the words, to have the self-esteem necessary to um, get somebody out of their life, or else it's usually not even that. It's that someone has mistreated you to such an extent um, that acting is less stressful than just staying the course. So how do you know? I mean, sometimes it's so outrageous that it's just like, oh, okay, this is it. Um, but sometimes it's not black and white, and you really have to figure out, is this person such a sort of menace in my life, despite the positive things that happen with them, that my life is going to be better with them out. So this is how you make that determination. First of all, how much of a positive impact are they making on you? Because you can have somebody that's like very much on both ends of the bell curve and is just making some terrible, chaos in your life, but also is a source of positivity. And I'm going to be completely evil here and use as the example my son when he was going through the worst of it as a teenager, because he really was. He has autism, and he had to go through DBT to learn what emotions were and how to cope with his emotions, because it was not anything that was intuitive to him at all. He had to be taught. But he still had the emotions, and they were big emotions, and dealing with them was just insane. And incredibly worth it, because now he's come through the other side, and he's great. I think he's a great kid. I like hanging out with him. I mean, really, I think he's pretty cool. And I'm so glad that I didn't give up, because I was given the option. But I mean, because I was hanging out with him, um, yes, there were some incredible negatives, like having to deal with all of his therapists and doctors and teachers and everything else, and bringing these people into my life and feeling judged. It was awful. Um, but like I said, he's a cool kid. I liked hanging out with him. The experiences that I had, 100% because of him. Like, how many times have I said volunteer? And especially volunteer at an animal shelter. How do I know this? I know this personally because that was what my son wanted for his birthday when he turned, I believe it was 13, maybe it was 12. Whatever it was. I can't even remember off the top of my head right now. But it was their cutoff for their minimum age to be a volunteer at the animal shelter. That's what he wanted for his birthday that year. And so we started volunteering. And guess what? It was great. And I keep thinking, even now, I'm like busy. Maybe I should go back and do some more volunteering there because it was great. Um, like, again, this is a crazy um, example, but when I was growing up, well, anybody's growing up, but, in the U.S., the big family trip that a lot of people take is going to Disney World. And I was an exchange student. I was actually living in Russia, at the time. And while I was gone in Russia, that's when my family decided to do the big family trip. They said it was financial, one person less expense. You're right. Um, I was excluded from the family vacation. And for that reason, I had a massive distaste, let's call it, um, for anything concerning Disney. But guess what? It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere in the United States. And I mean, I just felt awful. Literally, every time I saw the word or anything related, it would just be a stab. Remember your family left and went on that trip, and a family trip, and I guess I'm not part of the family, because that's how I was treated growing up. And then I had my son, and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, first of all, again, autism. Very difficult to deal with, until he could figure out, how to do boundaries, because his boundaries were incredibly limited for him, and anything would, then if he was even slightly uncomfortable, he would fly off the handle because he didn't know how to do emotions. And so the idea of going on a trip like that, going on an airplane, being in a different house, a different bed, the water is different, everything is different, the food is different, everything is different. It was a horrible idea, but I wasn't going to discriminate against my kid. I wasn't going to do the same thing to him that my parents had done to me. So an opportunity came up to do a short trip, and we went, and it was so different from what I expected. It was a great experience. It made him more flexible. It made him all around better person. It made us have a better relationship. And there are parts, now there's a lot of Disney that's like, oh, to me. But there are parts of it that I think are really interesting. Like, I mean, I like going to museums and things like that. I like, so going and seeing the theming, I think is really cool. Like, seeing all the different, have I been? I haven't been to all the places that are in Epcot because I haven't been to Germany. I haven't been to China. I would love to go to China. Not now. Not with our politics. Anyway, there are places that I haven't been, but there are places that I have, and to see, what they pulled from the places that I've been to make The country pavilions in Epcot, fantastic. When they have their little lands, I mean, like Cars Land in California, fantastic. Um, so there are parts of it that I really like, and actually, I'm going on a trip. I'm going out to California in September again because now, I mean, I'm not like a Disney adult, um, but there are parts of it that I really like, and the things that I like, I keep re-experiencing. I would never in a billion years have this positive experience if I hadn't had my kid in my life. And it would just be like this negative stabbing for the rest of my life. The association would be horrible instead of positive. 100% this is because of my relationship with my son. There is a point here. I'm not just humble bragging about him. Which is you've got to negotiate with yourself. Where do the people stand? Are they, you know, at a point where they've got enough positives that it's worth working on the negatives to keep them in your life? That's number one. Number two is, are they somebody that you have to have in your life, say because they're family or something, or you work with them and you can't stand the idea of getting a different job or whatever right now, but mostly because of their family or married into family or something that you just can't get rid of them. Okay, so you can't cut those people completely out of your life, but you could limit your interaction with them, and I highly recommend you do that. Um, but so that might be an option instead of completely cutting them out of your life, to just really make boundaries, which are difficult. And of course, the biggest boundary of all is to just make an excuse. I actually do this with a lot of my family, um, almost all of my family. Um, I just, if I run into them, okay, but other than that, I don't interact with them at all. Um, I have no interaction with them, and a lot of that is just because of how my family works. You tell I've had it in a ponytail all day and it wants to do something. Anyway, because they are very, very, very stuck in the past, and they are, um, they've been, everybody in my family except for my son, although he also, but mostly through me. Everything's been filtered through my parents, and like my sister is an hour away. I mean, that's nothing. She was living on the other side of the country, um, for years and years and years. So I still don't have anything to do with her. Um, I don't want the judgment. I don't want the comparison to, this is what I was like when I was 12. Well, guess what? That was 40 years ago. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know it. I don't want them to say, God, your mother would think this of you. Guess what? I don't care. My mother is dead. I don't care. Um, so that's it. I don't interact with them. Um, I don't get enough out of them, and they suck me dry. That's terrible, and that sounds so like, well, am I keeping track? Am I saying, do I, and is that what's going? No, but I mean, seriously, when it's that one-sided, it's really easy. Okay, well, what happens when it's not that one-sided? What happens when it's friends of yours or something? They're friends. They're old friends, so that you have a long history. So what are the signs that somebody in your life, you really need to make this decision about them. Um, and it's not something that clearly you're getting enough out of it that it makes up for the negative. Clearly, it's not somebody that you can um, put boundaries, to such an extent that you're not having to deal with the negatives. Okay, first of all, how negative is negative? Is it a case where you have no more positive interactions with them? Like, it's only ever negative. There's a sign. If thinking about them, you're not thinking of the positives, even if you sometimes have positive interaction with them. I mean, is it has it gotten to the point where even when you're having a positive interaction with them, you're feeling stressed out? That's a big sign. Are they somebody who, yes, you're dependable, and I'm sure that it feels really good to, have this confirmation that this person feels that you're dependable, but is it a case where they only want something from you and they're really not interested in what you might want or need from them? Now, I mean, before you go and put that in, are you ever trying to lean on them yourself? Have you self-limited? Have you tried? Try. See what happens when you have an issue. Are they going to listen to it? How do they react? If they're like gung-ho and happy and like, oh, thank goodness, finally I can do something for you. You do stuff for me all the time. Okay, there we go. Then that unevenness is something that's on your end, and you can work on that. Again, you can put boundaries in. If somebody is that aware that you're um, just there for them for whatever they need. I mean, it could be, and this sounds like weird, like, oh my God, don't talk about this. Guess what? If you're an adult, you can actually talk about things. You might actually, have a chat with them and say, okay, are you concocting these issues that you want me to help you deal with because that's the only way you think that I'm going to spend time with you? Actually, my son and I, we've had that exact conversation, and it's like, and then he's gotten out. He's like, okay, Mom, I can just call and say I want to hang out with you, and I'm like, yes, and then we can schedule it, and I probably won't drop everything, like if you're going to the hospital or something. You don't have some actual emergency, but you don't need to invent an emergency for me to, just hang out. We don't have to have a reason. Although having a reason helps with me. So, but I mean, it doesn't have to be a crisis. Yeah, but that's the thing. If somebody is basically just using you for whatever, that's a big red flag. So now, on the other hand, okay, so these are all really good reasons that it's time. But again, on the other hand, are you just like sick of that person? That is actually completely a valid reason not to have anybody, have somebody in your life. Is it because you're down and you're feeling depressed yourself? Okay, then again, in both of those cases, you go back to the original question: is this person worth working through that with? Is there enough there? And it's really hard to pull yourself out from the guilt of, oh my God, you know what I mean? Okay, for example, I actually talk, it's like the last conversation I have with every therapist I've ever had is, I feel so bad that I'm, you know, keeping you from a job and getting paid. And they all were like, oh yeah, it's no problem, I got tons of people. And it's so relieving for me to hear that I'm not like, they're not going to lose money because I'm no longer a client. um it's that sort of releasing yourself from guilt, um that, again, I have a whole other video about how to pull back um from somebody who you need to detach from. um so is it just guilt that's keeping you there? Is it that that person insists that they need you? This is the biggest reason why I really interacted with my mother, probably at least the last 10 years, and maybe even longer than that, was that she needed me because she was ill. Um, no, it's definitely longer than that, because she moved herself into my house before my son was born, um, because she was homeless herself. She made me feel like, and I had been living by myself for years, but she made me feel like I was incompetent living by myself, and I needed somebody to take care of her. And that was her story, but really, truly is because she was homeless. Um, so yeah, people might find you convenient. People can find somebody else if they need somebody else. So, um, that's not a good enough reason. Vice versa, though, if you really truly need somebody, for whatever reason, and you know then maybe that's worth, I mean, seriously, if you're depending on somebody for some reason, work on becoming more independent, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. um if somebody's really truly helpful to you for whatever reason, don't let your avoidant tendencies destroy that relationship. And I mean, so more or less, that's what I've been saying this whole time, is try to pull yourself away from the avoidant impulses, because really, if you're having avoidant impulses, then, and it's really rearing its head up, whatever the avoidant impulse is, more times than not, I'd say almost all the time, is actually the opposite of what would be most beneficial to you, because that's keeping you basically under its thumb, and it's protective. It's so that you don't, have to deal with stress and cope with, you know, things that are going to upend your life or whatever. Um, but it still is, um, probably keeping you down if you're having a lot of avoidant thoughts about something. I mean, really, truly, you learn after a while what avoidant type thoughts are, and how they're not exactly, I mean, they're your thoughts, but they're not really your thoughts. Um, so anyway, I hope that was helpful. And also, there's another thing, I keep getting a lot of comments about, can I talk about cognitive dissonance? Um, which, more or less, I mean, first of all, I think there's an entire video about it, but it's basically when what you're thinking doesn't really match up with reality. And basically, that is avoidant personality disorder. Like, anything that is related to avoidant personality disorder is a, you know, a more specific way of describing cognitive dissonance. You know, that you think that you're totally unworthy, that you think no matter what you do, it's not good enough, that you think nobody is somebody that you can trust, that you have to do any of your avoidant behaviors in order to survive in the world. Cognitive dissonance. So, yeah, you know, basically look at any of the videos about avoidant personality disorder, and that is cognitive dissonance. Anyway, talk to you next week.